You're listening to the Jersey Guys Podcast, the show that talks about hard rock, heavy metal, AOR, and West Coast music. In-depth conversation and special guests are always on tap, so settle in and turn it up. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Mark.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jersey Guys podcast. I'm Mark Ballo, and I'm here with my co-host, Tom Coyne, as always. And as you can see, we're doing another video episode. So we hope you liked the first one we did with Toto. We had Tom's son, TJ, here, and we're back with another one tonight. So on this episode, Tom came up with this idea about a week ago, and he's like, you know, we're early in 2023. So let's kind of do a little review of our top albums of 2022. So we figured we'd give that a shot and see. Hopefully you guys, maybe you'll find something you weren't aware of. Tom or I could tell you about something you haven't picked up or looked at yet. And so we're gonna do that. So I guess let's just get started, right?
Let's do it.
I'll start off on this. Tom's got about 20 albums or so that he picked out. I have about 10 or 11 or so. So I'm gonna do one, and then we'll hand it off. We'll go back and forth between us, and this way we hopefully keep things flowing pretty well. But I'm going to start off with the brand new album from the band Fortune. This was released, obviously, last year. It's called Level Ground. And this album features L.A. Green on vocals, of course. Everybody knows Fortune from their 1985 legendary AOR debut. But the band, this is only their third album that they've put out. They put in 2019, they had an album out. And now Level Ground came out in 22. Unfortunately, at the end of last year, right after Christmas, we lost L.A. Green, the singer, passed away. Shocking. Nobody expected it. In fact, we had him on a podcast, 6 months ago?
Yeah, it was a tail end of the summer, I think. Yeah, it's a hell of a nice guy, and I was very, very disturbed to hear what happened.
Oh, yeah, totally shocking. But this is a great album. Had some great songs on it. This band, if you think about and you know their 1985 debut, the last two albums have been really strong, right? Like they're updated. I don't want to say modern, because when I do that, people they cringe a little bit, but it's modern, like AOR. It's quality songs, but it's with an updated sound. So yeah, this was a Level Ground from Fortune. Great album. So if you don't have it, check it out.
Yeah, they stayed the course with it. I mean, they I think even in interviewing him, he knows what people wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Fortune also.
Right. Yeah.
I would start off with 6x6, which is a new band project with Robert Berry and Ian Crichton from Saga. And wow, this is, I would say, one of my top, we're not ranking albums, but I'm just saying this is one of my top 3 or 4 albums of the year.
Nice.
A little proggy, little AOR, hard rock. Call it whatever you want. Great songwriting. And I've never heard Robert Berry with this type of a guitar play. If anybody's not familiar with Ian Crichton, kind of out of the Ronnie Letecro school of solos. The solos don't necessarily have anything to do with the song, but it works. Yeah. And great record, great songwriting. Robert Berry is a guy that we're going to be having on the show in the forthcoming weeks.
So look forward to that.
Yeah, and just class, talent, like to the hilt. So
nice.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was actually one of the ones I actually kind of forgot about. And I guess when you're doing these type of lists, you always kind of say, oh, there's something I forgot about. And that was definitely one of them. So
yeah, it's a really strong record.
Yeah.
My next one is another one that very high on the list would be Stradivarius, the new album. I have the Japanese double, which is a limited edition, has a live show with this current lineup in great quality. And while this band has never done a bad album, this is, like, to me, when I listen to it, real return form of their 90s stuff. And Kotopelko, the lead singer, who, if you're into this music, you know him. He's in great form, and I can't say enough about this album. Another one that's probably easily in my top 3 or 4 albums of the year.
Nice.
So if you're into the power metal thing, the new Stradivarius, 5-star review.
Nice. Good one. I'm gonna go with my next one is gonna be the Swedish band Treat. They came out with their new album earlier in 2022. It's called The End Game, and this is a band that everybody knows Treat from the '80s, right? Kind of like Europe, but a little more Americanized in sound. I think we did a discography
We did a
discussion on them.
discography on actually Treat and
Yeah,
Europe. So.
yeah, right when this came out, actually, I
Mhm.
think we
Right,
waited because we
right. We
wanted to
waited to,
include this album.
yeah, terrific album.
It is, but it's. I mean, this is a band that, in a way, even though I don't know, I mean, they have obviously both being Swedish bands, Europe and Treat. They have that that comparison there, but I think they, in another way, they also parallel in that Europe went away for a while, then they
Mhm.
came back, and of course they did Start from the Dark in 2004, was it? But Treat was also a band that went away for a
Came back
while,
with Coup de Grace.
came back with Coup de Grace in 2010, I think it was,
Yeah.
and a brilliant album. And they've released 4, I think, up to this point with since Coup de
Yes.
Grace.
Yes, is the fourth
This
one.
being the 4th
Mhm.
one, and yeah, it's a great album. Return to form with, I think the album just prior to this was a little not as quite as strong.
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't
Good, but
great.
this is actually a
This one
jump
is
up.
terrific, and
Yeah.
the one before, the last one was really
Yeah,
good too.
Ghost of Graceland.
Ghost of
Right?
Graceland
Yeah,
is
that was
great.
great. But this,
I would
yeah,
say
the
that's
end
on par
game.
with Ghost of
Yeah,
Graceland.
I definitely would too. So,
Easily, maybe,
yeah,
maybe even better.
yeah. So Treat, the end game
Great
on
album.
mine. Yeah,
Yep. I didn't put it on my list only because I knew Mark had it on his, but I would say also easily would fit in my top 10 for the year.
yeah.
My next one would be the new Talus album, which is new but not new. It's a album titled 1985 because that's when it was actually recorded but was never released. And they redid the album because it wasn't a finished product with pretty much almost the same lineup at the time. There were 2 different lineups of Talus, prominent lineups. The first lineup with the original lineup, and the second lineup with Phil Narrow as the front man. Mitch Perry originally was the guitar player. That's the only replacement. It's very strong. It's doesn't sound like a 1985 album because it was re-recorded, but the songs have the strength of a 1985 album. So if you're into Talus, I would highly recommend this record.
Nice.
And my other one would be the new House of Lords featuring Mark Mangold on keyboards. Anybody
right.
familiar with Mark Mangold?
We had him as a guest on
We
the
had
podcast.
him as a guest also, and knows what he could add to a band. And he definitely added to this band because as much as I've liked recent House of Lords records, they lacked keyboards. And there was a band that started
right
as a keyboard band with Greg Giuffria, who is one of the most prominent keyboard guys in hard rock ever.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it brought the band more back to their roots. And I'd say it's one of the stronger albums that they've done over the last decade.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Definitely. My next one is going to be the brand new Journey album, titled Freedom. And I think, I don't know if I think this was a long time coming. Obviously, Journey doesn't release albums all that often, but I don't know if people ever really were gonna see this album for a while. They put out what a couple songs like a year or so or more ago.
Yeah, probably even more than that. Yeah,
prior to the release, but I don't know if we were ever going to see a full album. It's got some great classic sounding Journey songs on it. It is 15 tracks, so I think maybe it's just a little bit too long. I think if they would have took maybe 5 or so or 6 of the tracks off it, they could have made a super strong album. Otherwise, it is what it is. I mean, I enjoyed the album prior to this one. So this is another one. I think it's real good. Arnel Pineda sounds really good on it. And yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see another Journey album again after this. So gonna enjoy the new one, Freedom, from 2022.
Okay. My next one is the new Sunstorm album with Ronnie Romeo on vocals. This is his second go around with this project. It's a Frontiers project that Joe Lynn Turner fronted, I think, 5 albums.
Yeah, yeah, it probably was five
Yeah,
with him. Yeah,
and they were all good. I mean, as I was sorry to see Joe go. I know Joe was kind of bitter about not being involved anymore at the time. I think he's gotten over it by now.
yeah.
But
Well, I think what when that first started out, it was kind of like I guess an avenue to bring Jolyn Turner back into the AOR fold, kind of way in a way, right?
right, and there were a lot of like unreleased songs by other
Right,
artists, and
right.
some songs here and there that were released by other artists.
Yeah. And then
Um,
what it sort of evolved into was, all the in-house Frontiers guys got
yes,
involved in it,
exactly.
and then they kind of like started getting away from that sort of AOR sound and started getting a little heavier.
Right,
And
and
then,
and
he was
writing,
gone,
yeah,
and
writing more songs on their own, and it
yeah,
was a great project. I mean, if
yeah,
you're into Turner, and I mean, I figure most people that are watching this know about this project.
yeah,
But anyway, this is the second one with Ronnie Romeo. The first one with Ronnie Romeo, I thought was fantastic.
yeah,
I thought it was every bit as good as anything that they did with Turner. This one, I think, not quite as good, but it's very good and very worthy. And the project has stayed alive, I think, because Ronnie Romeo, to me, having all everything he's ever done, is a much better AOR singer than a metal singer. I
yeah.
think when he sings metal, he gets very grovelly
Hmm.
and a little strained, and when he sings AOR, he sounds very natural and very robust and has a great tone to his voice. And
Mm,
I like him a lot more as an AOR singer than sometimes he is a metal singer.
that's a good point.
And
Yeah,
really good record.
yeah. You got
I
my
think you're
turn.
up.
My turn. Okay. We're gonna get to an album here that I think a lot of people may or may not know of. I'm not really sure, but this is Generation Radio. It's self-titled. Came out in 2022. Interesting band. Jason Sheff from Chicago. Dean Castronovo, of course, Journey fame. And Jay DeMarcus from Rascal Flats, which is obviously a modern country band, but a band I've always been a fan of. I think I have all their albums. So when I first heard about this project, I was like, wow, this is going to be really good. And it is good. It's a very, very good album. It's kind of what you would expect. It's got a little bit of Chicago in it, a little bit of Journey in it, but it's got a lot of Rascal Flatts sound
Yeah,
in it,
without a doubt.
which is that modern country sound, but but it's got an AOR flair to it for sure. And I kind of wish maybe Jason Sheff sang a little more on it, but
Yeah, me too.
I
That's
mean,
I think my biggest disappointment when I saw Jason Sheff was involved in this. I
yeah,
kind of just assumed he was the voice of the band, and
right.
he's really not. He's kind
Yeah,
of a
it's
bit
a little bit
player
of
in it.
everybody. Yeah, but no,
Excuse me.
I really like this album. If you get the US version here, it comes with like a DVD with some videos and stuff that the band. I think they were live in studio or something to that effect. But yeah, it's got some really good songs. And like I said, if you're a Rascal Flats fan, which I am, I mean, this was something I really enjoyed and I've listened to it a lot. So Generation Radio.
My next one would be the latest album by Crash Diet, which for me was a very long time grower. At first, I wasn't wild about it. I'm still not sure if I've totally warmed up to the new singer. It's only the fourth singer
Yeah,
in the band's history,
only the
and
fourth. Yeah,
right, and they're a band that was lucky enough to have two great periods with the original singer Dave, who we know passed away, and by the third album they had another great frontman in Simon Cruz, and released a monumental album, in my opinion, the third album. And
Generation Wild, right?
yes,
That was yeah.
Generation Wild, and this is the second album with the new singer. It grew on me. I kind of um, have come to realization that they're never going to be quite what they were at one time,
Yeah.
and I warmed up to a lot of the songs, and some of the songs are very good. And I would say it's worthy of There's a lot of I had about 35 albums that I had culled this afternoon, and I put back about 10 or 12 of them. So it made the cut for me. If you're a Crash Diet fan, the sound is still there. The singer is good. He's not off-putting at all. I just think it lacks a little bit of the personality that Simon and Dave had on the first and the third albums.
Yeah.
And like I said, that may never be regained again. But It's a great classic, band that really in their heyday captured the LA sleaze sound,
Yeah.
even being from
Yeah.
Sweden. And it's highly recommended.
Nice.
My next one is the new Leatherwolf album, and we will be having the great Rob Math as a guest next week.
Yes, look forward to that
Master
one.
Shredder and Master AOR West Coast
That's right.
player also with Peter Beckett.
Peter Beckett's guitar
Right.
player. Yeah.
This is an odd album because I generally am not a big fan of bands that resurrect with very few original members. And this would be one of those bands, but they did manage to keep the sound of the band, especially in the guitar and drum department,
Yeah.
through Rob Matt and Dean Roberts. And they have a new front man. It's not Mike Oliveri anymore, but it's really good. It's a combination of the first Leatherwolf, which was real heavy, and the third Leatherwolf that was a combination of commercial and heavy. The second album probably being the most commercial of their back catalog.
Oh yeah.
And it really worked. There's some great stuff. I mean, this is like real vintage heavy metal.
Yeah.
Like kind of like I think Mark pointed it out to me, almost like early Sabotage at times.
Definitely. Yeah.
I can't say enough about these guys. Won me over. Again, anybody that knows me, I'm not a big fan of original lineups that are like not so original anymore. But Dean Roberts and Math did a great job of picking new guys. Wayne Finley, who I think most people know through Michael Schenker and other bands, is part of the band also. And a couple of new guys on the scene that are real good talents. And if you like Leatherwolf, I strongly urge you to check this new album out.
Yeah. And it's an independent release, right? Is it?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, it's something, check it out. I honestly wasn't even aware it came out until a month ago or so like that. And I was like, hey, the new Leatherwolf's out. I got to pick it up. So yeah. But no, that's what Tom had said. I really, when I was listening to it, I was like, wow, this has like early Sabotage sound to it, So yeah, it's a good one. I'll have to listen to it.
Really more. Good.
All right. So I'm going to head on with my next one. And this is going to be a weird one. And maybe a lot of people aren't super familiar with. This is called Kings of Mercia, self-titled, came out on Metal Blade Records. And Kings of Mercia is a weird, unusual combination of Steve Overland, who is the singer in the great UK AOR band FM. And it's also got Jim Matthews, and Joey Vera from Fates Warning. And it's also on drums. It's got Simon Phillips. So it's like, I mean, I don't know how these guys all got together, but this is a really good album. It's actually, it's heavy, it's metal, but it's got Steve Overland with this great AOR voice singing. So it's like a really weird combo, but it works well. Great songs, and something I really enjoyed when it came out. But yeah, Kings of Mercy on Metal Blade Records. Check it out.
Yeah, I like that album too. It is a really weird pairing.
Yeah,
but it works better than it sounds.
His voice, I mean, you wouldn't think you're thinking, oh, FM and this AOR and this light keyboardy sound and everything, and he's got a little bluesy thing going on in his voice too. But you wouldn't think when you put like a metal background,
Yeah, no, he cuts it. I mean, I don't know, in a live setting, but
Yeah.
certainly in the studio.
Yeah.
A guy that's just been doing AOR and bluesy AOR his entire career.
Yeah.
Stepped it up with a beefed up band, and yeah, he cuts it. He's in a lot of stuff. I mean, I love Steve, but he's like bordering on the overexposure at times. But
But this is probably it's probably the most unique thing he's done, because all his other stuff
without
is
a doubt.
is
It would
in
have been
that
on my
vein.
list too.
Yeah,
I knew you were going to put it on yours, but it would have been on my list. And another band that I don't think either one of us talked about was A to Z.
Yeah,
another band.
It's another with the Fates guys, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so that's with Ray Adler and Mark Zonder.
Right. Yeah.
I actually thought of that right, like before we did this, and I didn't pull the album, but A to Z is another
came out around the same time.
Like the A to Z, the 6x6, the Kings of Mercy, they all came out like within a couple of months, and they're all really good, like melodic, a little tinges of prog
Yeah.
and
Yep.
yeah.
Definitely.
My next one would be the latest from Dead Daisies.
Ah,
Um, if you're a Glenn Hughes fan, which I'm a Glenn Hughes fanatic for my entire life, basically, I highly recommend this. If you like the first Dead Daisies with Glenn Hughes, it's more of the same. It's almost got a little bit of that plotting Sabbath when Hughes was involved with Iommi. It has like kind of that vibe to it, but the songs have great hooks, and yeah, it's very similar to the one before it.
and
I
what's
would,
that? What's that behind it?
and
What's the
behind it is a CD single that is actually become very hard to get a hold. They only sold it in some of their USA shows that had a cover of the song, the great classic song "Oh Well."
ah,
And if you want to hear Glenn Hughes, like
and it's only on that single.
yeah, and this
Nice.
thing was only available at the U.S. shows.
They did a set. Was a second run of US? Didn't they do two
Yes,
runs in the
yeah.
US? Yeah. Wow. Nice.
So if you want to pick up a really good song that's not on the CD or it's not a bonus track on a Japanese or European release, there
Nice.
was this CD single. But yeah, the new Dead Daisies, and I have a feeling this is probably going to be the end of it because from what I understand, he's back with Bonamassa, uh, and they're going to record this year. So
Ah. Okay.
uh, it might be
Well,
the
yeah, Glenn Hughes can't stick around for anything for too long, right?
exactly, exactly. So I don't. There's been no announcements that he's not in the band anymore, but I would think that with Bonamassa and Bonham and Sheridan, they're probably going to hit the road at some
Yeah.
time when they release a record. But
Right.
if you're a Glenn Hughes fan, you probably have it. It's nothing that I'm telling you about. But if you're not, and or if you are and you don't follow his whole career, both of the Dead Daisies releases highly recommended.
Nice. My turn.
Your turn.
My turn. Okay. Mine is going to be. I know this is one Tom's maybe not. I know he's not a fan of, but Chez Kane. This was the second album from her. It's called Power Zone. It just came out. I guess a few months before the end of the year. I loved the debut Chez Kane album. She's a great singer. Very got that 80s vibe sounding like the Vixens and the Lita Fords and everything. And this album is actually, and the first album too, was written by the singer Danny Rexon from Crazy Licks.
Hmm.
So he wrote the whole
I
album,
didn't
wrote
know
all
that.
the songs. Yeah, yeah, he's behind this whole thing, produced it,
Really?
wrote the songs. It's
Did,
all
did
him.
not know that.
So it could be almost like a a little bit like a female version of Crazy Licks
Hmm.
in a way. Very 80s sounding. Think Vixen, like I just said. Great songs. She's a great singer, and she's actually touring. She's got a band and actually touring all over Europe now, which is cool. So it's actually something that's more than just a studio project. But yeah, the second album from Chez Kane, Power Zone. So yeah, I like this one a lot. Not quite as strong as the debut, which I absolutely loved, but right up there. It's actually really good. So yeah.
Okay. My next one is Star Chaser. It was another Frontiers project that kind of came and went. It got a lot of hype at the beginning, which is kind of similar to a lot of Frontiers things, and
Yeah.
then just disappeared into the darkness.
A week after it came out.
Yeah, I terrific album, hard rock, a little bit of like that Swedish power metal sound to it. Terrific songs. Uh, Absolutely love this album. I played it to death when I got it. Star Chaser.
Nice.
My next one is a band called Squared. That I was actually talking to Mark about. I was tipped off to this by my old friend PJ, which most of you guys out there in the collecting circle know. He told me about it. It's this band that be right up your alley. Uh, a real, almost old school type of AOR melodic hard rock band. What I really gravitated to them about was they captured the sound, and that's what I really look for now, because there's such an overindulgence of AOR and melodic hard rock,
Yeah.
especially in from all different European countries, that I have to whittle it down to the guys that really have the sound. There's a lot of bands that They're doing it. It's not bad. The vocals aren't bad. The songs aren't
Yeah,
awful.
just kind of paint by
It's
numbers in a
just paint
way.
by numbers.
Yeah.
And these guys are not paint by numbers. They have a very unique sound. If I told you it came out in '89
Mm.
and it was something that wasn't signed or on an independent cassette or something, you'd probably fall for it. That's the type of sound that they have. So when I heard it, I liked it a lot, and it kind of stayed in the back of my cobwebs when I was thinking of top albums for
Yeah.
the year.
Nice. So Square,
Squared,
Strange Affairs is it called?
Strange Affairs.
Strange
Yeah,
Affairs. I got to look at that because that one went right over my head. I
yeah.
didn't even
No,
know
it's. I
about
was.
that.
We were talking about it. I was telling Mark about it before we went on the air. Very, very, very classy album.
Nice. I got to pick that up. That's one I got to add to my list. So, my next album is going to be the great Joe Lynn Turner. Put out a new album. It's called Belly of the Beast. Just came out the last few months. I mean, if you know Joe Lynn Turner, you know his history, Rainbow, Deep Purple, solo albums with AOR sound and all that stuff. But this album is a totally different, and I guess you can excuse the pun, but it's a totally different beast.
Yes, it
So
is.
yeah, it totally is. This is a totally heavy, dark, metal album. I don't think it's probably the heaviest thing he's ever done, right? I
That
mean,
being said, it's not as heavy cover to cover
right,
as it
that's true.
was
Because you
as
do
you
hear
were led
some
to
Deep
believe.
Purple
Yeah,
influences
I
and
mean,
Rainbow
there's a couple
influences.
of like almost like progressive metal type
Hmm.
of songs, but it's not all the way through
Yeah.
like heavy.
Yeah. Well, I think the guitar player he hooked up with this it was Peter Tatgren, I think it is, and he's from the band Hypocrisy. So obviously like a heavy metal band, a
Yeah,
real
guitar playing's good on the
yeah.
album.
But and it's great because I think what he did with this album is not only is this a whole new sound for Joe Lynn Turner, but if you follow him and I mean he had some health scares over the last few years. He had some heart issues, but he's back and he's stronger than ever. And he decided to basically just throw caution to the wind, and he took off the wig. And if everybody knows, Joe suffers from alopecia. Hasn't had any hair since his teenage years, and he wore a wig for a lot of years. Everybody kind of knew it, right? But it was kind of that inside thing.
But Richie Blackmore wore even a bigger wig, so nobody
Yeah, there
cared.
you go. Right. So I mean, but he took it off, and he's now just going natural. And I think the new image and the new sound with Joe and Turner, it's a nice nice thing to hear. It's refreshing. It's different. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Belly of the Beast, Joe and Turner.
Okay. My next one is Riot City, their second sophomore release. This is a traditional metal band, another band from Canada, which over the last decade has been far and away the place for traditional metal bands, which is all I'm interested in anyway. Anybody that knows me,
Hmm.
if it sounds like '80s and it's good, I'm interested. And these guys, their first album was good. They changed singers. Original singer I thought was a little weak for the music and the songs. They have a new singer, and on this one, the new Riot City, highly recommend this to anybody who likes traditional '80s metal. It's an absolutely ass kicking album.
Electric Elite, right?
Electric Elite with
Nice.
one of the great covers
Yeah, it
of
is a cool
yeah,
cover.
great.
It's like a
In fact, I
classic
wrote them. I
classic
said,
metal cover.
"You guys got to make a T-shirt of
Yeah.
this." Uh, yeah. Okay.
Nice. Good one.
My next one is the Tony Martin Thorns album. I think
Oh,
people have forgotten about it because it came out very early last year. It came out about this time, I believe, last
yeah,
year.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Big fan of this. I know some of my close friends, like my dear friend Phil, is not
Hmm.
a fan of it. I don't know why. It's very much of cut from the mold of the Sabbath stuff. I thought the songs was very strong. I
Maybe a
thought
little heavy, like the guitars are kind of like that, like a little more moderny
a
sounding.
little bit
Maybe
more
is that
moderny
maybe that's
sounding,
why
and
Phil
some of
doesn't
the
like it.
songs. I mean, I don't know. I thought this album is terrific. I know there are people that love it, and I have, aside from my friend, have read other different things where people were not wild about this. I don't get it. I don't know what people want, but
Hmm.
I thought the songs overall were terrific, and Tony Martin,
Yeah,
Horns.
no, I mean, I actually had that on my list, and I kind of whittled it down because I originally thought we were going to kind of go with 10 each, and then Tom snuck a few more in there. So, but no, that was
You know,
one of the ones.
I'm retired, unlike Mark, who has a demanding job. So I had nothing to do today. So I scoured through like probably about 10,000 different CDs,
And you doubled up on
and I
me.
doubled up on them. And I actually, I was telling him before he got here, I culled about 10 or 12 out. I
Yeah.
had a stack like up to here.
You wouldn't have been able to see them. They would have been all in
Just
front of you.
digressing for a minute, for people that always say, there's no more good music, or where
Oh,
are the
yeah.
good bands? There has never been a time that there's more good music than there is now. I
You
mean,
got to
this
seek it out.
right. You have to seek it
Yeah,
out.
it's out
Exactly.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's out there. I mean, we went through the hideous '90s, the early 2000s, which weren't really much better. And if you look at where this music is now, AOR, hard rock, traditional metal, there's tons of music out
Yeah.
there and tons of reissues, and it's a great scene now if you want to delve into it, and it's not going to be dropped in your lap like MTV anymore. So
Right. Right.
you know
Yeah. Definitely.
enough with the digressing.
So I'll do my next one, and that's going to be this is we talked about albums came out in 2022. This was an album that was released in 2022 by the band Toy Cannon. It's called Forever One, but it's not a brand new release album. This is out on Aeonian Records, which is a U.S. label, kind of like an indie. I guess you would call them like a boutique label, maybe, or something like that. They specialize in putting out a lot of like demos from like the 80s and early 90s bands. And this is a New Jersey band, Toy Cannon. And I always knew of this band. And to be able to finally get, the songs that I've known about for years and to have them in like awesome quality, this is a great release. And besides the fact, I'll give myself a little pat on the back. I actually wrote the band bio in the CD booklet. So,
And he did a tremendous job, and I'm not saying that because he's my friend. He did a very good job.
But yeah, not just I'm not picking it because of that. I genuinely love this album. I mean, if they're a Jersey band and if you liked Trickster from their heyday,
Yes,
this is what Toy Cannon sounds like.
It's in that realm, yeah.
Right. So yeah. So this, and I love Trickster because we did our top 25 not all that long ago, and their debut is on my top 25 of all time. So yeah. So Toy Cannon, Forever One on Aeonian Records. Check it out.
So that would be your reissue of
It'd be a
'cause
reissue
I
of
have
sorts, I guess.
my reissues of the year
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah, it's the only thing I think that wasn't, newly recorded in 2022, but it did come out this year. Just
it
a few months
is
back.
really good.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of picky with like there's all these reissues that's like on every genre of
Yeah.
music right now. AOR, hair bands, metal. There's just constant reissues, and this is definitely one of the better ones, and very well done.
Yeah.
By the label. Uh, my next one is the most recent one by Black Swan, which is their sophomore effort. I think it's tremendous. It's a super group of
Yeah,
sorts
definitely.
for anybody that's not familiar with it.
Robin McCauley, right? Jeff Pilson.
Right, and Red Beach.
Beach,
It. I thought it's even. I liked the debut. I thought the debut was really strong. I think this one is even better. The songs are tremendous, and what I really like about it is you could tell that this isn't something that Frontiers put their thumbprint on. These are clearly, a band of this ilk is writing their own material and doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
And the time and effort of these big name guys like Pilson and Beach and McCauley is very evident in the songwriting. The songs are great on this album, and McCauley is still in great voice, and what you're getting with Pilson and Red Beach, and
Yeah.
great record. I think even better than the debut. Big fan of this album.
Yeah. Well, actually, to digress a little bit, like you did a minute ago, and I want to talk about that. You mentioned the Frontiers thing. How there is a lot of Frontiers projects that are thrown together by the powers to be at Frontiers,
Or at least have their thumbprint.
and they have their
on it.
thumbprint. They have their producers, their in-house
Right.
guys, songwriters, players, whatever it is. But there is certain amount of bands, and even that Generation Radio thing that I talked about, that's on Frontiers too. But that was actually a project that was recorded prior to them joining up on Frontiers. So, and this too, like you said, it's four guys or, like three main guys that really are doing their own thing. So it's not like where you've got, the in-house writers from Frontiers doing it and stuff. This is really good stuff. So yeah, there is a certain amount of bands
Well, this
there.
is where Frontiers really becomes, prominent and useful in the year 2022,
Yeah.
going forward, because they are signing bands with talent like this and letting them do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And in between the cracks, there's a lot of stuff that comes out. Some of it is real good. Some of it is paint by numbers.
Right.
I'm
Forgettable.
not I'm
Yeah.
not gonna start.
Yeah.
We're not here to slag anything
Right.
on this
Right.
show, so I'll
Yeah.
leave it. My next one is the latest effort from Queensryche, which
That
were
Digital Noise Alliance,
yes,
right?
Digital
DNA.
Noise
Digital Noise
Alliance.
Alliance. Yeah.
Their
Good
last
one.
album, I want to say I didn't like it, but with Rockenfeld out of the lineup, and like the amount of original members dwindling, the last album I thought was okay. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this. What I got from it was maybe the best thing they've done, or in my opinion, without a doubt, the best thing they've done since the first album with
Yeah. Great
Todd
songs.
Latore. This is a really good album, and when you're listening to it, it's got vintage Queensryche, like mid '80s
Yeah.
type of sound. And great songwriting. I
Yeah.
mean, they won me back into the fold because I was dwindling. I really was. I saw them a few years ago. I went to see Fate's Warning, who was opening up for them. And after Fate's Warning was on, I did stay because my girlfriend had never seen Queensryche, but I was just very like, Scott Rockenfeld's gone. I'm not wild
Yeah.
about the last album. They brought me back into the fold. I think the new drummer is from Camelot has
Yeah.
fit in. He sounds great on this album. And the songs on this are really, really good. And it's got a very vintage 85, 86, 84 type of Queensryche sound to a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
Todd Latore sounds great. He always does.
Didn't he play drums on some of that too, though?
I don't know if he played drums on this.
Okay.
He played drums on the last one.
Oh, okay.
He
All
played
right.
drums.
Okay.
As far as I know, Casey Grillo plays
Oh,
drums
okay.
on the whole album.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
from Camelot. This is they brought me back. I had my interest back in the band. So
Nice.
totally recommend the new Queensryche.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's something I love that when I first listened to that album too. I really like that. Strong album. Great songs, like you said.
Yeah.
So I'm up.
You're up.
I'm up. Okay. My next one is going to be another Frontiers release. This is called Shining Black, Postcards from the Edge of the World, Postcards from the End of the World. Now this is Mark Bowles, the singer Mark Bowles, who everybody knows from Yngwie Malmsteen in his time with Yngwie.
Another guest that we had on.
Another guy we had on not long ago on the podcast. And it's the guitar player Olaf Thorson from the band Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's their second album, and this is just when we had Mark on our podcast, I kind of started getting aware of this album and listening to
I think
it.
it just came out when he
did
or
it?
maybe it wasn't even out when
Oh,
we
really?
had him on.
Okay. Yeah, I think it might have been out.
It just
I
had just
seem
come
to
out.
remember
Yeah, because we
listening
talked
to
about it a little bit.
on the ride down to do the podcast with Mark that night. Great album, great songs. I mean, it's I guess you could call it, power metal or something but it's very melodic too. Just
that's
really
the second
great.
release.
The second release from the band. Yeah, it's great.
They're
Great
both really
album,
good.
Great
It
songs.
was on my list too,
Yeah.
but Mark had it on his, so
Yeah.
I'll let him expound on it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. Great songs, great vocals. Obviously, Mark Bowles is a great singer. So yeah, check this one out though. Shining Black, Postcards from the End of the World.
Yeah,
on
and
Frontiers.
if you don't have them, there's one before it, and they're both really good melodic hard rock.
Yeah.
With terrific guitar playing. Mark Bowles sounds as good as he did 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong.
I guess you could call it like melodic power metal or something, maybe.
Yeah, because like the guitars are real heavy on it, but it's very melodic, like real beefy guitars.
Yeah.
My next one is Wildness, a Swedish band that I absolutely love. This is their newest one. They've had a few out. This is the second one with their second singer. great, great Swedish melodic hard rock in that typical Heat, I
Yeah.
guess, type of
Yeah,
vein.
definitely. Yeah.
Treat sounding at times. This band, every one of their albums, the songs are great. There's nothing weak. Huge production, great playing, great vocals. Huge fan. If you don't have anything by the Wildness, go out and get it if you're into that sound. And this new one is as good as the couple that were before it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
My next one is the project of Chris Uzi, the Uzi Man project, which people probably know Steve Mann.
Steve
He's
Mann,
been out on the road with Michael Schenker for like 300 years now. They both have turned white. Steve Mann, is a stalwart in a British AOR dating back to the 80s, and Chris Uzi, the
Classic
Heartland
voice. Yeah.
albums, the Chris Uzi albums, the collaborations in other bands that he's did back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Great, like throaty, bluesy, kind of in the Overland school of British
Totally.
singing.
Yeah.
And this is another thing. When it came out, I was like, I got thrown together project. Man has been living on the road with Schenker for X amount of years now. How good are these songs?
Yeah.
It's terrific. I mean, it's really, really good. The songs are strong. It's very well put together. An escape music project, which we know
Khalil came up with,
Khalil
with a
Turk
good one
doesn't
there.
ever
Yeah.
put out
That's right.
anything that's not worthy. And
True.
Uzi has been, one of his guys for decades now. And I would really recommend this if you're into British, traditional British, melodic hard rock.
Yeah.
This is a keeper.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, actually that was one of the ones I kind of was on the fringe list of mine. So yeah, I agree with you on that. My turn. Okay. This one is a little bit out of left field for a lot of people. I'm not sure if people are aware of this band or not. Actually, Tom turned me on to them. They're 4 albums into their career now, but this is Young Gun Silver Fox. Ticket to Shangri-La is the album. It's their newest album, their 4th, like I said. And they're a total West Coast yacht rock sounding band, right? It's 2 guys. It's Andy Platts and Sean Lee, that are kind of a duo that put this project together. And it's like I said, they're on their 4th album now, but the new one is great. Just like all the other ones. I mean, great songs. They're very, like I said, yacht rocky, a little Steely Dan.
A lot of Steely
right?
Dan worship,
For sure, yeah. But I mean, very smooth
but
West Coast.
more. I think a little bit more yacht rock 70s,
Yes,
early
that's true.
80s sounding than Steely Dan
Yeah,
were. I mean, Steely Dan had some occasional songs that were like
right.
that. They have a lot of writing influences similar to Steely Dan,
Yeah,
with a lot of
smoothness,
smooth
and
yacht
yeah,
rock. It's great stuff. I mean, we've been talking about this band for a couple of years now.
yeah,
If you're into that stuff, and there are not that many newer bands. There's a couple of Swedish bands, a couple of American bands. It's kind of almost become like a lost art
yeah.
in terms of new music. I mean,
Right.
thankfully, there's a million releases from the 70s and 80s. But if you're not into these guys, I would really, like Mark said, I really suggest them big time.
Yeah. Young Gun, Silver Fox, Ticket to Shangri-La. Check that out. And the band is
real good.
actually finally going to be playing some shows in the U.S. I think in March. One of them in New York City. So
yeah,
if,
I'd
you
really
know,
like to go to that. We were talking
Yeah.
about, I'd like they're that good. They play with a horn section. They play.
Mhm.
It's 2 main guys, but they play with a full band, so they get the whole sound of
Yeah.
that yacht rock stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, they got it down
Yeah.
big time. Great
Yeah.
band.
Good stuff. Yeah. Thanks for turning me on to him.
You're welcome. My next one is a band called Summerlands, which I'm guessing a lot of people may not be into. They're a band from the Philadelphia area. Haven't gotten a lot of love in terms of, like the melodic rock scene that usually is plastered all over, the Facebook pages. They kind of are off on the fringes.
Totally under the radar.
Under the
Yeah,
radar,
you
yeah.
told me about them. I'd never heard of them.
Really smooth. This is this new singer, and it very smooth vocals, great catchy songs. If you want to give something different a try, and I say different, it's not like from left field. It's not something that's crammed down your throat, or the latest Frontiers release, or the latest thing that has some big name guy that's been in 100 different things. These are younger guys. They're from the Philadelphia area in the U.S., and it's just such smooth, hard, catchy rock that anybody that likes that, I would dare somebody to listen to this album, and I'd say, wow, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Summerlands.
Nice.
My next one is the most recent Perfect Plan album. Unlike the band I was just talking about, this is a band that does get a lot of press in the melodic rock, and rightly so. Kent Hilly, probably one of the best singers to come out, and I'd say with Dino and maybe Romeo, a couple of other guys, he's like that good.
Oh yeah.
And this album is really incredible. They almost go into like some of the songs sound like White Snake outtakes from from 20 years ago. That's how good they are.
Yeah.
Big sound, big production. His vocals have taken on almost a Coverdale type of sound to them. And while I like all their albums, I like his solo stuff, the covers album they did, I think this might be the best thing they've ever done. This is high up on the list, the new Perfect Plan.
And the singer Kent Hilly, he did the Giant album.
That's right. He did that Giant album.
I mean, whether you consider that blasphemous or not, But,
well, just to digress, I originally did, and that album kind of won me over just on its quality. I don't really
consider it
as,
to be Giant,
right? But it's also very good, and his vocals contributed a lot to how good it was.
Oh, definitely, yeah, he made that for sure. I'm gonna go with my last one here, and this is we just talked about pure great AOR type stuff, and this is a band called Lionville, which is basically I think this is their 5th album, right?
Yeah, I think it is actually. It's at least the 4th. It might be the 5th. Yeah,
it's called So Close to Heaven. And this is a great album. This is the singer
from Work of Art,
Lars Safson from Work of Art. Yeah, so he's been on all the albums. It's every bit as good as Work of Art, I think, maybe even a little bit better. The guitar player is Stefano Leonetti. And it's like Work of Art, maybe with a little more guitar.
Yeah, it's a little more guitar. That's a great way of describing it. It's Work of Art with more guitars.
Yeah.
Work of Art is a little bit more like a traditional AOR album. These guys are AOR with a lot of guitar, but you got that guy singing. He's also in my top echelon of newest singers.
Yeah, you talk about
great singer.
Yeah, he's a great singer too.
Yeah,
so
that's a terrific band. And when you mentioned it too, that was something I would have pulled out if you weren't gonna show it, because really good album.
Definitely.
All their albums are.
Yep. Yeah. So Lionville, So Close to Heaven. Check that out.
My next one is a band called Outland, and some people may remember these guys from probably about 20 years ago. They put out 2 albums that got a lot of play in Burn Magazine at the time. They were Japanese releases of them, and they came out, I believe, European also. They're 2 guys from the U.S., and out of nowhere, this new one appeared. I was shocked to see that they were still together and writing, and it's on par with their earlier stuff. I would best describe, I was telling Mark about it when it came out, kind of like the Outfield with a little more, with more guitar.
Yeah.
Also a really good guitar player on this. But kind of like those type of songs, heavier Rembrandts, like that type of songwriting, but with more guitar.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how good the songs were on this album, because I really hadn't even thought about these guys. I think their albums came out in the early 2000s.
It's funny because you turned me on to this recently, and I only got this maybe a month ago, and I really haven't delved into it. So, I mean, it may have been on my list had I had a little
Yeah,
more
no,
time
it's
with it.
the songs are, and I'm all about the songs. It's,
Yeah.
I grew up on the Beatles. I'm all about the
Yeah.
songs, and this is really, really good album.
Yeah.
My next one is a band called Reign of Glory. Anybody that's familiar with the singer Robin Basori that was in the band Red Sea,
Yes.
um, I know he appeared in a couple of other things too, but that's what he was most known for. But he had a uncanny similarity back in the day to Ray Gillen.
Yeah.
Uh, he's back in a new band, and this also did not get, for whatever reason, a lot of notoriety out there. I think it came out on actually Bill Rock's label,
Oh, yeah. Another one that
and
flew right over my
yeah,
head.
and it didn't. It's got massive production. It's traditional hard rock. This guy's vocals are every bit as good as they were on Red Sea, and the songs are great. The guitar playing is great. The production is great, and this is actually a travesty that I don't see this album mentioned at all. This is something that if it had came out in '90,
Yeah.
and on a major label would have been plastered in all the magazines, and it's got Robin Basori is still every bit as great as he was back then, and I can't say enough about this album. So if you don't have this Reign of Glory and you're familiar with him, and you like that sound,
Yeah.
highly recommend that one.
That's a good one. I got to put that on my list too.
Yeah, I'm going to run through a couple more that I have at the end here real quick. A Frontiers band that got no love at all was here today, gone tomorrow. Vipera. I don't know if how many people are familiar with this. It reminded me of they're a European band, but they did remind me of like a late '80s, early '90s American release. They really had that sound of something I could have seen coming out, like in '91. Good melodic hard rock, a little bit of a ballsy edge to it. Different singer, like it doesn't sound like everybody, but he's really good. A cool young band, and I just this is the downside of Frontiers because this got pumped for about a week,
Yeah.
and it was gonzo. And this is really good. If you don't have this Vipera, I'd highly recommend it. Really, really good stuff. Another band called Soraya Sign that really didn't get pumped up that much. It just kind of just popped up out there. Very similar, I thought, kind of like the Perfect Plan with more keyboards. Terrific singer, great, very immediate songs. Um, Terrific stuff. I would grab this while it's out there because it's on an independent label. They didn't get signed yet. I don't know if this is something, it's a one off, but Soraya Sign, highly recommend it. Vinnie Moore, Double Exposure. I was waiting for this for a long time. There was a lot of talk of Vinnie Moore working on this album for a while. Always been a big fan. He's one of the few shred guys whose solo albums I do like because he's got such, musical sensibility. And this is kind of half vocals, pretty much half instrumental. The vocal stuff is great. He's got Keith Slack on it. He's got Mike DeMeo from Riot is on it. Some of the songs are very Allman Brothers sounding, and I know Vinnie Moore does like that, as some people may or may not be familiar with. And I think this is a terrific solo album, really terrific solo album by Vinnie Moore.
Good one.
And winding down here, Tokyo Blade. For anybody not familiar with Tokyo Blade, they have been back for like about the last 7-8 years or so. Have released 3 different albums with the classic lineup. One of the few bands that have, all the classic guys in it. And their last 3 studio albums that they have put out are one better than the other. This is the latest one that came out. And if you like Tokyo Blade, they sound exactly the same, and like I said, the lineup is intact and great stuff.
Nice.
Next, Saturn, Apparition, AOR stuff. If people don't know Saturn and you're into AOR, you should know him because he's got 3 albums out now, and it's classic AOR. It's not, the AOR trying to sound like AOR. It's the AOR that sounds like it was recorded in the late 80s. So recommend Saturn. He's got 3 albums out. Look him up. Satin.
Not
And
Satan.
not to be confused with Satan. Satan doesn't usually dabble in AOR. And my last one is a band called Entranced. If anybody is familiar with the band White Wizard or the band Holy Grail, this is James Lunar, who is the singer in both of those bands. It's traditional metal from California, done the right way. I mean, obviously, he was the original singer in White Wizard, which is the king of traditional modern
New
bands.
wave of
New wave
traditional
of
heavy
traditional.
metal, right?
White Wizard started that whole
Yeah.
new wave of traditional heavy metal. What Iron Maiden was to new wave of British heavy metal, these guys were to new wave of traditional heavy metal. And James Luna was the original singer in White Wizard, then started the band Holy Grail after that. And this is his latest project, which is just great songs, great vocals, and just, can't say enough about it. So the only thing I have left is a couple of things in the way of reissues of the year. And one of them was a thing called the Moon Rock Project. I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but it's the singer Shmuel Abigail, who was one of the great unknown singers. He sang in like a whole bunch of things. He was in the band Picture that Bert Herrick sang in at one time. He was in the Rods. He was in Harpo. He was in Jack Starr's band. He was in the band Horizon. And this was something that he did in the later 90s that never was released. And it was talked about getting released for years. And I believe it was his wife that really pushed it getting released. He always did sound very similar to Dio. Great singer. I've collected all of his stuff over the years that he sang on. And this finally got to see the light of day, the Moon Rock Project. I really, if you're into great vocals and great, straight up metal with great songs, Shmuel Abigail, if you're not familiar with this guy, one of the great unknown singers in terms of, not being an everyday household name.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. He died a couple of years ago, but this is the last. There's a lot of things out there you could collect on him if you do the research and the bands I just named. And my last reissue of the year, I actually have the vinyl because it's easy to show, but it did come out on CD.
Nice.
The band Cradle. And this is one of the I've wanted this to come out on something for years. It's a Canadian band, a lot of Wasp in their sound. If you put Wasp, Lizzie Borden, and Vane in a blender,
wow,
that's what Cradle sounds like. And I have the vinyl. It's got a great booklet in it. The vinyl is worth having just for what they did with it, and it is also available on CD, which I would get if what I described is of interest to you.
Nice.
That pretty much says what these guys sound like.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
Yeah, nice. Well, hey, I think we covered a lot of stuff here, a lot of different types of music. Obviously whether it's a couple of things we had here and there that were older things that finally saw the light of day in 2022, but a bulk of what we talked about today was all new music. And I hope maybe Tom or something that I had here, we could turn you on to something that you didn't know about, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. So I think it was a good idea to do something like this. We're early in 2023, like I said, and so we had to do a little bit of a year-end wrap-up of 2022, and we hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll be back with another episode real soon, right?
I hope we've turned some people onto new music, and even if you know most of this stuff, I'm sure it's good to hear the other people expounding about it.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It's I'm sitting here and I'm looking at some of the things you had that I wasn't even familiar with. What you said about
I keep
them
my
makes
little
me
secrets from Mark here and there.
What you said about it makes me
want
want
them
to
at the
look at
last
them.
minute.
Yeah, right. So I'll have to look them up myself too. So yeah, so that's it for this episode, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.